What's up, Nerd Herd, IDP Army, Fantasy Football, Dynasty fans? How y'all doing today? It's Jordan Rains back again on the Dynasty Nerds YouTube channel, here to bring you guys another episode of some fantasy football goodness, some Dynasty goodness. Like I said in the last video, if you haven't checked that out, go check that out. But we talked about what is IDP fantasy football. What does that mean when you hear that? Just gave a brief explanation for you all about, what IDP fantasy football really means and how you can, kind of begin to enter this conversation and enter this format of fantasy football comfortably and quickly and just add another element to your game for 2021. So I recommend you go check out that video. It's just a couple back on this channel. Make sure before we get into anything else, you hit like, you hit subscribe or thumbs up, subscribe, hit the bell so you are notified whenever new content does come out onto this channel. And so you can just stay hip with the vibe. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I guess I'm going to jump in with y'all. We're going to talk through today the Dynasty Nerds IDP 1-2-3 scoring, which is the default scoring setting for Dynasty Nerds. And yeah, we'll get you into that and then we'll get you out of here. So let's do it. So, like I said before, the standard or the default scoring we use at Dynasty Nerds is called IDP 1-2-3 scoring. That's my baby. It's my concept child. It's my brainchild. I put a lot of effort, energy, thought, and processes into it. Recommend you go check out the article I've written on it. You can Google it, and it's out there now. So IDP 1-2-3 scoring. There are other places you can find out about it. You can do a little deeper dive. Check in the comments here or in the description, and we're gonna have a link for you. But essentially, IDP 1-2-3 is a simplified, unified, and balanced IDP fantasy football scoring system. Simplified refers to the fact that it has 1, 2, 3-point plays, so it's easy to remember. You do have 6-point plays, so those are going to be your big plays, your sacks, interceptions, and your IDP touchdowns. Unified, this is a big one. Unified means that all the players score the same points for the same actions. Premium should be an exception and not the rule or the standard within any scoring system. I believe that's the way most people play offensive fantasy. And in IDP, we shouldn't really, make the ease of use and the ease of entering the space easier. As a default scoring system, we at Dynasty Nerds encourage people to play in a unified system. And then, I'm not against premiums, but I just, that's for your second season. That's for your sophomore year. In your rookie season, you want to get in there, you want to get the reps. You might want to do, consider it a redshirt year, if you will. But it's not really like that because you're still going to win if you listen to this channel. And then balance. What I mean when I say balance is the offensive players in a PPR format or tight end premium format are going to score generally in a certain area between 450 to like 350 points for your top end guys, depending on outliers, depending on how the season goes, touchdown equity, all that stuff. You know all that. In IDP 1-2-3 scoring, it allows the defensive players to score a similar weekly upside, so they can hit around 50 points, just a little over, which is usually what the highest end offensive players can hit. And on a season long level, it also allows all of these players, linebackers, defensive line, and defensive backs, to push up past 300 points without giving them too many premiums or without giving them premiums that push them past that mark where they become more valuable than offensive players. So when we say balanced, it's not a 1-to-1. It's close though. And, because of the nature of the game and it's different on both sides of the ball, this is what, after a lot of research, I came up with, which seemed to work. And after a lot of research, I've, the usage cases are there for IDP 1-2-3 being a balanced, unified, and a simplified scoring system. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a deeper understanding of what IDP 1-2-3 is. So let's talk about the simplified nature of it. So 1, 2, and 3-point plays. Your 1-point plays in IDP 1-2-3 scoring are going to be quarterback hits and assisted tackles. Why are they 1-point plays? The reason being is, an assisted tackle is a defensive stop that takes 2 defenders. So that player is actually receiving help and it's gone beyond the line of scrimmage. So the offensive player has gone beyond the line of scrimmage and he's getting help on that play. So these things happen often, and because of the nature of the help received, you don't want to give it too much of a value. So we make that 1 point. It's basically the least amount of points. Quarterback hits, similar. It's not the most disruptive play. It's not the most impactful or meaningful play. So we give it a 1-point credit. Now, we do give quarterback hits. We believe in Dynasty Nerds, it's very important to credit quarterback hits because it's a way to apply what I call pressure points without necessarily giving someone the full credit for a sack. So they did get to the quarterback close enough to hit him, cause a disruptive motion, but we can't really say what the individual disruption of that play was, because it could have led to, an errant pass, or it could have just, happened after the pass is already completed. So we don't really know, but we want to make sure that's credited. 2-point plays in IDP 1, 2, 3 points or play scoring, would be your solo tackles and your tackles for a loss. A solo tackle is a defensive stop like an assist, but it's past the line of scrimmage. Still not the best, the offense has been allowed to move forward, but it's an individual defender making the play now. So he's going to get 2 points, double what an assist would be. And then solo tackles are credited for 2 points as well. A solo tackle or a tackle for loss is just a solo tackle that happens behind the line of scrimmage. Now, because the defender makes the play behind the line of scrimmage, it is a 2-point play. You also get the individual solo tackle counter, so that's a 2-point play. So it actually ends up being a net value of 4 points for a tackle for loss. But we're fine with that because of what we call impact plays. Now, impact plays, we're going to do the next video will be about impact plays. I'll kind of explain the theory behind impact plays and break all those plays down a little bit more. But for now, the main thing you need to know is that an impact play is basically it's a defensive play that has the most equity or return on the field, and it's rewarded the most in IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring because it makes the biggest impact on the field. So impact plays are anything that moves the line of scrimmage backwards, anything that's a turnover opportunity, anything that stops the offense from moving forward. Those would be your impactful plays. So then your 3-point plays, and all of these plays in IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring, impact plays are all 3 points or more as a net value. So your 3-point plays in IDP 1, 2, 3 are your passes defended. This is a high skill level play to get your hands on the ball. And it means that the ball moves 0 yards, basically. Forced fumbles, turnover opportunity, a fumble recovery. Now, that is a true turnover, but because of the random nature of it, don't want to give that too much of a value. So we keep it at 3, like the forced fumble. Block kicks, those are turnovers. Pretty rare occurrence, hard to see coming per se, but some guys, are better at it than others. We give that a 3-point value as well. And then the safety is the other 3-point play. That's a defensive score. It's a 2-point score, and there definitely is an argument to be made to give that a little bit more because it is like the sack nature of it and the scoring nature of it, and it's so far in the defender or the offensive team's far of the field. You could definitely premiumize that if you want. Premiumize that, I don't know if that's a word, if you wanted to, but for the sake of keeping it simple, again, this is the simplified part of IDP 1, 2, 3. It's a 3-point play. IDP easy as 1, 2, 3. That's what I want you to think of when you think about IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring. Simple. And then your 6-point plays are your sacks, interceptions, and your touchdowns. Sacks, there's definitely some research that shows that sacks are a highly disruptive play. I mean, you already know this, but going back a couple of years, a guy from Football Outsiders, Derek Klassen, wrote something about the 2016 season. He found that 179 of 1,118, so 16% of drives, which there was a sack eventually got another set of downs. Basically what that means is 84% of the time, essentially, that there was a sack on a given drive or on a given set of downs, the ball ended up coming back to the defender. So it's really close to a turnover. If you can create a sack on a set of downs, not 100% turnover rate, but it's very high. So that's why we have it at 6 points. There is definitely an argument that a true turnover being an interception at 6 and a sack at 6 maybe doesn't make sense. But again, we want to keep this simple. Okay, so you do your research and tweak it as you want, but I just want you to know we value sacks, interceptions, and touchdowns all the same because that's the simplified nature of IDP 1, 2, 3 scoring. So now I've gone over simplified. Let's talk a little bit about unified. So in unified scoring, what that means is in IDP, on defense, there's a multitude of positions: cornerbacks, safeties, linebackers, defensive tackles, and then defensive ends. But depending on schemes and how players are set up, it can get really, really messy. You can have outside linebackers, you have weak side linebackers, you have defensive tackles, you have nose tackles, you have defensive ends, but you have pass rushing edges. Then there are people that make a big deal out of if a guy's standing up or leaning down. If you want to worry about that, that's on you, and I encourage you, go do that. For IDP 1, 2, 3, we unify the positions. What does that mean? That means you don't have to try and figure out what a guy does. We give you a set of 3. We basically look at the defense as 3 levels. Your defensive line, those are your defensive tackles, your defensive ends, and your pass rush outside linebackers. Some formats or platforms don't allow you to do that, but Sleeper, Flea Flicker, and what's the other big one? ESPN have an edge position. So in IDP 1-2-3 scoring, you will have what's called a DL position. A DL position will have pass rush outside linebackers. That would be your TJ Watts, your Shaq Barretts, your Harold Landrys, as well as your defensive ends, your true defensive ends, whatever that really means, which would be like your Myles Garrett's and your Nick Bosa's. You're also going to combine the positions of cornerbacks and safeties. So you're going to have what's called a defensive back position. You're going to have guys like Marlon Humphrey and Jamal Adams, although they play different positions technically on the field, they are categorized as defensive backs. You will be able to slot them into a defensive back position. So when we are doing this, generally speaking on Dynasty Nerds, and again, you can do this differently if you want as your league feels necessary, but we want to bring more people into the IDP space. And because of that, we are really hammering home the simplified, unified, balanced nature of IDP 1-2-3 scoring as an entry. This is the door. We want you to speak friend. We want you to enter this world of IDP fantasy football with us and have fun with it. Once you get here, it's a playground. Have as much fun, do whatever you want with it. But for people just coming in, it's the easiest way to assimilate to getting used to defensive players is to put them in this position or these positions we've found. So we unify those positions. So whenever you look at Dynasty Nerds end of season rankings on defensive line, you're going to see TJ Watt at the top, not Myles Garrett, and you're going to see Aaron Donald as well in the top 5. So in the top 10, top 5, you're going to see a defensive tackle, you will see an outside linebacker, and you will see a true defensive end, because we want those positions to be combined, unified, so that you can you don't have to go through the weeds to get to IDP. Go play in the weeds next season. If you want to get in a true position or a 5-position league, whatever, wherever that may be, we want you to do that. But we want you just to get into IDP first and foremost. So you're not going to have to look at streaming tight or cornerbacks. You're not going to have to distinguish, a defensive tackle that gets 2 tackles, and have to play him every week and find a guy to replace him, when his bye week comes around. If you don't want to play a defensive tackle, you don't have to. Now, on the flip side, if you do, you can, because we combine those positions. That's what I refer to when I say the unified, and then balanced. Again, what that means is offense, defensive players are going to hit similar upside. So on any given week, pretty much the highest upside that an offensive player and a PPR, even a premium, can hit is right around 55, 60 points. I mean, that's very, very high end. You get a couple of guys every season that get up into that 50 range. Within 4 quarters, and just the way the NFL works, it's really, really hard / impossible to push past that, given what it would actually take to do time-wise and stat-wise. IDP 1-2-3 scoring allows defenders to do the exact same. We had several defenders push into that 50-point range this year. Nobody went over. So you're hitting a similar upside on a weekly basis as PPR, which is the balance. You're going to be able to play your team and not look at, okay, my defenders are only accounting for 30% of my overall, my overall roster scoring. So I'm not going to pay attention to that part of my roster. In IDP 1-2-3, with the balanced, holistic approach that IDP 1-2-3 scoring allows you to have, you will be able to look at your roster, manage your roster, build your team in so many different ways and strategies, because points are available to you in a multitude of places from a multitude of players. And you're really not hand waving any positions, or if you do hand wave a position, you can really put yourself behind the 8 ball, because these players in IDP 1-2-3 scoring can score points that maybe your offensive players are not going to get you in a given week. So to have a high level defender does make a difference in IDP 1-2-3 scoring. Whenever your offense lets you down, your defense might pick them up. So that's the nature of IDP 1-2-3 scoring. I'm going to read the points back to you again one more time. 1-point plays are quarterback hits, assisted tackles. 2-point plays are going to be your solo tackles, tackles for loss, pass deflections, forced fumbles, fumble recovery, safeties, and block kicks are 3-point plays. And then your 6-point plays are going to be sacks, interceptions, and touchdowns. Now, next week, or whenever the next video may come up, hopefully next week, I will talk a little bit more about impact plays themselves. We won't talk about the tackling element. We're going to talk more about impact plays. What kind of players are better at certain kinds of impact plays, why these plays are scored the way they are. And if you do want to take IDP 1-2-3 scoring, the base model that we present to you here, and you do want to add want to jack up the scoring or bring something down a little bit, I'll give you some suggestions as well to some plays that I think maybe could get a little bit more juice added to them in the impact play department based on the scarcity of the play, the impact of the play, and all that. So we'll explain that to you next week in a video. In the meantime, Thanks for coming. I appreciate you all coming back in this week. Get a lot of good feedback on the channel. The comments are always hopping. So I really do appreciate that. Go check out my channel, the IDP Army. I do other, IDP videos over there. Nothing quite as rigorous as this. We have a little bit more, we have fun, but we have fun here too. You know that. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. That's going to go a long way to helping the channel out and myself out. Make sure that you subscribe to this channel, because I'm going to be putting videos out here all the time. I got more stuff coming in the works. We're going to do some offense, defensive type stuff. Some, looking back or looking across the aisle, shall we say, to players that maybe have a similar sort of scoring metrics as this player does, and give you guys some just, fun information like that. The off season is supposed to be about building up your team, building up your knowledge base. And yeah, so I really appreciate you all being here. Like I said, hit that bell, hit that subscribe button. And also, quickly, if you are not on Prediction Strike, go check that out. Use the IDP 123 code. You'll get a little tiny kickback on there. That's a place where you can go and you can play the stock market, but you can play the stock market with fantasy football and fantasy basketball players instead of stock. So it gives you a chance to get in on this market game that everybody seems to be in on without necessarily going into a space that you're not comfortable in. So if you do know a little bit about basketball, there's an easy place to make a buck over there, an easy place to just, play with your money a little bit more and put some of this knowledge that we all have from the sports world to good use for you. That's it from me. Until next time, Nerd Herd, be good, stay in touch. I'm out.